because he's been hurt.
Been gone so long. Hey, by the way, Darren, if that's the case, I'm going to keep Severino with my 16th round pick.
He's a keeper, right? You got him.
He's a keeper.
Does Torres have a long-term future with the Yankees, or is he pretty much?
Yeah, listen, he's going to be a second baseman this year, and hopefully that helps him rediscover his offense. One of the reasons the Yankees were where they were last year was because a lot of guys just failed to hit, and Gleyber Torres was as glaring as any of them. We grew up thinking, this old cliche of, you take your troubles in the field to the plate with you, right? Well, there's probably an element of truth to that, to Gleyber Torres, because every time he booted a ball, we'd be focusing on that. We'd be on him about that. And he knew it too. He's turning around looking at the scoreboard to see if it was a hit or an error. I saw him do that a couple of times. That's not good for your psyche. And you're taking that to the plate when they've probably changed the ball a little bit. And there's other factors there that are, and he wasn't in as good a shape as he had been because of what happened in 2020. So yeah, he was carrying around a lot of baggage and it weighed on him. So he's got to, they don't have to sign him long-term right now. They don't sign him to a 10-year deal. Let's let him play this season and see how he responds, because it's not always a straight line up. Every player, every good and great player doesn't always have a straight line to the top.
Right.
Sometimes they have some bumps along the way and they got to build them back up.
Well, seeing that you mentioned Gleyber, you said you take things to the field with you. What about Gary Sanchez? He struggled in the field. He struggled at the plate last year. What do you think is Sanchez's future?
Sanchez is going into this year knowing that he's going to be a free agent next year, right? Mm-hmm. That's incentive enough for anybody to go out there and just
perform,
put up your best year and perform. I have a hard time believing he can do anything this year that would make the Yankees sign him as a free agent long term. I just don't. I don't think that that's the investment they want to make. Even if he has a really good year, I think that they're probably they kept him for a long time because he was very cost effective for them, and that cost effectiveness is going away. And I think they would probably find other ways to do that. I've defended Gary on certain things, others I haven't. But I'll tell you this about Gary: when you talk about like just this whole idea of being a free agent, I guarantee you, he gets off to a good start. Someone's going to look down on it and saying, "Oh, look, of course he's going to do this in his free agent year." Listen.
He'll be the first guy to say that.
Any one of us, right?
Especially if I draft him.
If any one of us was told that your salary in whatever job you have, your salary for the next 5 years will be determined by how well you do your job in the next 6 months, you telling me you're not going to try to perform a little bit better? Come
Everybody
on.
Is.
I hate when people make that thing and stick it to a professional athlete who has a good free agent year. We'd all do the same thing.
Not me.
You're a mediocre guy all around.
You don't care about the walk here.
Right. That's why I can only do weekends on wins. I can't do middays or anything like that.
Is there anybody in the American League East you're excited about? Young player or anybody that's coming up that you got to watch a little bit on either Boston or Baltimore or Tampa or Toronto? Obviously, we know about the kids we've seen.
Toronto, but exciting to watch.
Yeah, I've always, Bo Bichette's the guy that I was kind of like, I pegged him as my MVP, I think, last
22nd round pick. He's a keeper.
There you go.
I had Gleyber Torres last year as a keeper. It didn't work out. Anyway, we move on.
Did I tell you guys I don't really like fantasy?
I've never heard that from you.
I thought Bo Bichette was like, breakout kind of MVP type of guy. Here's a funny story about Bo Bichette for me. Okay. The Yankees, I think this was 2010 or 2011. They drafted Dante Bichette Jr. with their first pick out of high school. Mm-hmm. And he didn't pan out, but he came to spring training, and Joe Girardi has a long relationship with Dante Bichette Sr. They played together in the big leagues. Joe named his son Dante after Dante Bichette. So he's very close to the Bichette family. So when the Yankees drafted Dante Bichette Jr., there was, we made some of those connections and stories. And I remember asking him, we talked to him. I vividly remember this. We were talking about Dante Bichette, what kind of player he can be. And Joe just offers up to me. He says, Wait till you see his brother. He's even better. Now, at that time, Bo Bichette was like 11 years old.
Wow.
Joe Girardi is projecting to me and telling me how amazing a player an 11-year-old is. And guess what?
He was right. Well, I
think
think
we've got a lot of
base.
By the way, from what I understand, Marcus Stroman's brother, same thing.
Really?
Young, this kid could rake.
Wow.
I think he's like 12 years old, 13 years
old. Oh, wow.
Old.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you don't put it past it with the guys. I'm sure there are guys who watched, little Ken Griffey Jr., take batting practice. And there were guys there's video of Terry Francona, the Tigers third base coach, throwing batting practice to Prince Fielder at Tiger Stadium. Stuff, there are stories like that.
No doubt. I know we've covered a lot of baseball. Let's just cover a couple of quick football things as we try to wrap up. If you don't mind staying, but I'm going to ask your opinion, Sweeney, as well. Aaron Rodgers, $200 million man. Obviously, Jordan Love is no longer the answer in Green Bay. That first-round pick seems like it's gone away.
Right.
Is it a lot? Is it way too much for a guy of his age?
I don't think that they ever. Let me tie this back around to you, okay? This is something that somebody brought to my attention in regards to, like, if there's no salary cap in baseball, and if there was, you'd see a lot more revenue sharing, where the Yankees would have to basically fund Tampa Bay and help get their players. Like the Packers' revenue is not the same as the Cowboys' revenue, right? So how are they able to afford to sign Aaron Rodgers' deal? Because all these other teams are funding it, right?
Wellington Mara. They can all thank Wellington Mara.
Right. So when they pay him $200 million and he's out there, taking the team to a division title and championship game, or whatever else again, all these other teams are paying for it. that's really hard to fathom. Listen, it'll stop for him eventually. He's one of the greats. He's kind of a hard guy to root for. And as somebody pointed out today, I think a couple people didn't he claim he was being canceled? They just gave him $200 million. I don't, cancel me if that's right.
He's an interesting guy. Bill, what are your thoughts on him?
I think he's a dick. Plain and simple. You can't argue with his ability. I mean, he's a great incredible athlete. I mean, and I think even at 38 years old, definitely the first 2 years, you're going to get your money's worth for sure. But he's tough to root for, especially after this last year and the stuff that went on. I've had the shot. No, I've been inoculated. No, a lot of that stuff. Now, we were discussing this last week. Now that he's had the cleanse, maybe he's a new man. Remember, he had the Indian cleanse.
He's ready to go.
He's ready to go. And it brought him clarity. And maybe that's why he was able to sign this deal.
I have no idea.
No,
Calvin Ridley, does he have a gambling problem, or is that just one of the weirdest things you've ever heard of? $1,500 in bets because he's out because of mental issues, so to speak.
Let me tell you,
you can't bet on the sport.
The thing that people have seemed to debate about this all the time is like, well, listen, they're taking money from all these gambling sites, and now it's hypocritical. No, there's nothing hypocritical about telling the people in the game that they can't bet on. Is it just me? I think this line is pretty simple. The general public, the fans, you can bet all you want and they'll make the money off of it. And this is how you help pay Aaron Rodgers and everybody else all this extra money. The people in the game are not allowed to bet on the game. And it's really simple. And I don't know why everybody seems to have this problem with it as far as it's thinking it's hypocritical and this and that. Like, you play the game, you can't have any influence on it, and you can't be gambling on it. I understand why they're saying it because of the money involved in going to the league, but it's not. It's pretty cut and dry, simple. You play in the game, you can't gamble on the game.
This has gone over with them when they first start off. They all know the rule. Right. I was happy to know that he gambled on the Falcons and not against them, because that would have really been – I'm just being honest with that little statement. I mean, I'm glad that he bet on his team and not against them, but he can't bet. You're told you're not allowed to bet. You can't do anything to compromise the finality of any game that you could be a part of, have any influence over. Powers, what do you think?
As long, I can't keep him next year for football. So, no, I agree 1,000%. You know the rules. That's one of the rules. You play in this league. You can't bet in this league. And, you can bet on basketball. Go bet on college basketball, college, whatever you want. Just don't bet on here. I don't ask where you eat is pretty much what the way I think. You can't do it. I think he deserves the year. Maybe again, it's a little bit different, but maybe you ban him like you banned Pete Rose.
Yeah, I don't, and I don't see it. Listen, I don't see anything wrong. My favorite about Pete Rose is people say, "Oh, they let murderers out of prison." It's like, not if you think they're going to murder again,
right?
Pete Rose did nothing to convince you that he's not going to keep that he's still been gambling all this. He went to Vegas and all these things. The whole idea they let murderers out of jail. No, not if you think they're going to murder again.
I mean, and the thing with Pete is they basically gave him the out a few years back. Like, just say you did it and we'll let it go. And he refused. He's just a little too not. I guess Russell Wilson will close with Russell.
Right.
So what do you think, Powers? You wanted him to be a Giant for a while last year.
Originally I was thinking I wanted him to be a Giant, but then I kind of went along with, with the Giants thinking. And I did say it. If we go out and draft 2 offensive linemen with the 5th and the 7th pick, let's see what Jones can do. Let's see. Maybe, sometimes guys blossom late. He's had 4 seasons. He's had 2 different. This is going to be his 3rd coach in 4 seasons. Give him a chance with these guys.
Do you think Russell does well in Denver?
They gave up. I
don't care about Daniel Jones. Nobody cares about Daniel Jones. Talk about Russell Wilson.
I personally think that they gave up a king's ransom. They gave up way too much for Russell Wilson. That's my opinion. What was it? 2 firsts, 2 seconds. They gave up Font. They gave up. I guess it was one of those. Hey, if you want, if we're gonna get Drew, if we're gonna get Johnson, you have to take Drew from us. What the hell is his name? Drew, the quarterback.
We're doing
Dallas, Denver's quarterback.
Drew Lock.
Yeah. You have to take Drew Lock, or we're not going to make the deal. So, he's not that special. But everything else, I think they gave up a lot for Russell Wilson, and they're going to be in the same situation as a lot of other teams. Like we were talking about how Pat Mahomes, he's going to make $45 million now, but now it's going to be hard to pay the guys around him to continue to compete at an elite level. Same thing's going to happen now in Denver. You're going to be paying Russell Wilson $40 million. Now you have to put a team around him, and you've already lost $35 million.
That defense is good already, though. It's going to be interesting to see. Sweeney, what were you going to think about that?
I'm trying to find this. I'm going to show this to you guys. You guys want to see it. This is Yankees minor league prospect Russell Wilson at spring training a couple of years ago. You
got to know him a little bit then.
I got to talk to him a couple of times. Somebody snapped a great picture of me and him and made one of the wire services or something like that. So I got that in my collection.
How good of a baseball player is he?
I mean, he was good enough to get drafted out of high school. And he actually, while he was still, I forget what years, but he would show up to Texas Rangers minor league camp and spend some time with them. And he showed up at Yankee spring training 2 different years. I think it was 2 years, and he, he'd stay for a couple of days, maybe a week, and work out with the guys. And he's an athlete. I mean, they put him in a hitting group with, I think, Judge and Stanton. So I mean,
he stood out a little bit,
just a little.
But he's, I think they all appreciate him. You got a guy who would, the guy who was a Super Bowl champion, walking in and talking about leadership and talking about commitment and things like that. The young players are going to stand up and listen.
Ciara, he's got a lot of things going for him.
Yeah.
Hey, is he going to be able to? Is he going to help Denver? Did Denver make a wise move here, Sweeney?
I don't know. I don't watch as closely enough as I used to. I think I've watched enough to know if there's still something left in the tank. And if you, as you guys know, you surround a quarterback like that with enough weapons. Listen, how Peyton Manning wasn't nearly the same player he was when he got to Denver, but you surrounded him with some weapons and he still took you places. So I think you can say the same thing about a guy like
Denver has weapons. If they can build the O-line, they'll be pretty good because the defense, the young secondary covers, I mean, they're pretty good. Yeah. Last thing from me, Sweeney, unless you have something else, Powers.
Dude, I can talk all day about Yankee baseball.
Yeah, so
but
can
we don't
I. I
have
don't
that
want to
kind
take
of
it.
time.
You've been
Let's-
more than generous with us, so
Let's do this again sometime during the year.
we would love to.
We would love to, bro.
That would be
especially
awesome. So
once
my
the season
last
gets
question for you is a simple one. Does Seth Lundy have enough in the tank